Hello and welcome to the Crowing Cockerel podcast. I'm Graham and as always, I'm joined by my co-hosts Mark and Tom. How are we doing, chaps?
Very well, thanks. Good to see you.
Yeah, all good. Excited about this one.
Lots going on since we last did this, isn't it? We were projecting and discussing what might happen, and with Frank presumably coming in. Well, he's now in. He's now with us. He's brought
He is.
most of his backroom staff, I think, as well. So there's some stuff to go through with how the players have reacted to Angie's sacking. Some interesting Instagram posts, shall we say, and a couple of tweets here and there. So it'd be good to chat that through. Best place to start is with Frank. Frank coming in. How positive are we?
Well, I think one thing to say first of all is, like we've been saying, a lot of kind of talk going on from the players about Ange leaving. There's a distinct lack of talk from the manager himself coming in. Where is he?
He is on holiday. I believe he is on holiday. How long he's on holiday for, we just don't know. But he's away. He's got to do his video, hasn't he? He's got to come in and do a fantastic intro video and an interview with the club to tell us how brilliant it is to be on a 3-year contract that will probably last 18 months. And
Come on.
I'm skeptical, but he's got he's got to do all that media stuff, hasn't it? So they can stick it on TikTok and we can all share it and have the bite-sized stuff, because that's how they get their exposure nowadays, isn't it? So I think it's all happening. But they've put out the statement, haven't they? He's put out a statement saying goodbye to Brentford. Brentford have put out a statement saying goodbye to Frank.
I got to admit, I'm surprised, because even when Ange probably knew he was going to get the sack, he was quite happy to give some interviews on his holiday, wasn't he?
That's what I'm saying. I'm really surprised that he hasn't, like, even if it was just a kind of a post in his Speedos going, hey guys, I'm on holiday at the moment, but I'm really excited to be joining the club. I'll see you when I get back, or something like that. I'm really surprised that there hasn't been anything at all.
Or even a reporter in the bushes with a camera jumping out at him going, what's your feelings?
Is it out of respect for Ange, I wonder? And given some of the reaction...
The media doesn't work like that.
No, but I'm not talking about sort of the paps. I'm talking more about sort of... Thomas Frank is coming in. He knows the vibe and the culture that Ange created. They're coming off a big win. I'm sure we're going to talk about some of the reactions of some of the players with regards to what they've been posting online. I wonder if this is him giving them the space to be annoyed, digest what's going on, take a little bit of heat out of it. This might be a tactic. It might seem a little bit disrespectful to Ange to sort of come and go, hey, I'm the new guy and we're going to do great things together. If he'd done that and then a day after we got Romero's rather pointed comments, I think people would sort of feel like, oh, hang on, things are still a bit awkward here. He's going into a really awkward situation. Whereas if he just stays quiet and waits for those official press bits, which he'll have to do, that it might be quite a savvy game to play.
Yeah. Maybe he's sort of, as you say, trying to work out the lay of the land. I wonder if he's had the conversation with Romero, because I guess you would expect him to have got the job. The players have been told as employees that you've got a new coach coming in. New coach is given the phone numbers for all of them. He then rings them and says hi. Obviously, some of them are going to be like I would be with a new boss and like, oh, hello, yes, really nice to meet you. And some of them are going to be really off and a bit standoffish with him to find out what he's really like. I've no insight into the personality of these players, but I would suggest that he rings every single one of them personally and says hi or whatever.
It might just be that he's on holiday and he's decided, you know what, it's obviously the end of a long, hard season. I'm on holiday with my family. My phone's off. You know, that's the way he does things, and fair enough. And actually, I'll be back when I'm back.
Do you think that all the criticism that Levy gets for being a detail person, a micromanager, but actually he's a proper people person? And when somebody says he's on holiday, there's no way that he's getting contact. He's properly, you go and enjoy your 2 weeks, like he did with Ange. When he comes back on the Monday, you're fired.
Yeah.
Whilst you're away, we're not talking about it.
I think you're being a little too kind on him. I think Levy is heavily procedural based. I think he knows that there's an HR policy somewhere, which means he can't bug people on their official annual leave, and therefore he'll wait for the appropriate moment to have that
Yeah,
conversation with
he's
Frank.
probably very procedural, isn't he?
I think as well, like Mark said, with regards to just being on holiday after a long season, not just after a long season. How many years was he at Brentford?
7 years, I think, wasn't it?
Right. So that, and you saw from the sort of statement that they released how enormously well he was thought of there. It wasn't, it's not just about sort of bringing him up. It was about the culture. It was about sort of the way he made them punch massively above their weight. You know, you said at the top, are we happy? I am gradually getting happier. We said in the last episode that tinged with sadness now watching some of the reels and stuff from the Europa League win, given Ange sacking. But I think you were able to justify what's happened. You were looking around and seeing, okay, who could come in and do a good job, at the very least give us some sort of stability, some sort of confidence. And a guy like Thomas Frank, who other people were looking at, I'm definitely more positive. I think he might be a really good fit as well with our young group of players. So for me, yeah, I'm really looking forward to sort of hearing what he comes out with first off. And although in those first few days when I was thinking, oh, great, it's been announced, but where is he? I think we can probably give him the benefit of the doubt that he's allowed to stick his feet up after walking out of a club on 7 years and taking on, let's be honest, a bigger club with much bigger expectations.
I think one of the things you said there, Tom, was absolutely spot on about him being a really, really good fit. He's got a decent personality. He's got a decent record with young players. Really interesting, I think, that he's bringing as much of his coaching staff as he can do as well. So Justin Cochrane is coming back, isn't he? So he was one of the coaches at Spurs youth level and really, really highly thought of. A lot of rumour around the delay in getting Thomas Frank over was due to the negotiations around bringing Justin with him as well.
Didn't they rate him so much at Brentford that they were almost lining him up to be Frank's replacement?
Yeah, so that's really encouraging because, of course, if he was under six, I think he was under 16s coach at Spurs, then he'll probably know Mikey Moore, for example, those sort of players. He'll know the inside of the club as well. So I think that's a fantastic idea. And one of the things that really struck me is the difference between Ange. So Ange went from club to club, never with a team behind him. So he brought in coaches depending on the club he was going into.
Right, okay.
So that was one of the things that was quite different about him. Whereas normally what you get, a bit like Poch with Jesus and, you know, his guy, is that they almost work as a team, don't they? I think with the sort of changeover that's happening, for Frank to bring people in that are really supportive of him already, that's going to create a bit of authority around him as well.
Yeah. He's back in with, he knows the technical director, doesn't he? Langer, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't know what a technical director does, but again, it's all kind of good familiarity. It helps you to kind of bed in, doesn't it? If you've got somebody at the club that you trust and they obviously work well together. So I think that's definitely all positive as well.
It'd be really good if we could buy some ready-made quality
Yeah.
players that will actually bring us up a level, or let's be honest, after last season, a couple of 3 levels.
Ange did say that they wanted to bring in some ready-made players, and obviously they're more expensive. So it may well not be the 22 league defeats that got him the sack. It could just be the statement saying he wants some ready-made players, and the club's gone, whoa, that's a lot of money. We're not doing that.
But I think that is going to be really interesting because one of the things about Thomas Frank that has made him so popular, and one of the reasons why Brentford have been so successful, we talked about, I think last episode, we said about the fact that Brentford had such a low wage budget. The way he's been able to be successful is by bringing in players cheaply and then developing those players. So he has been a bit like Poch did when he was here. He brought in players and then he developed them, and they are now much better players. And of course, they're then able to sell all these players off at a massive profit. But as we've just said, we are not really at that stage anymore. We don't want people to come in and have to spend 2 or 3 years developing them.
And he had longer. He had longer at Brentford, didn't he? What about, so what do we think of the Tell confirmation? Matt Istel coming in for 38 million in the end, wasn't it? Reported as, with already paid a £10 million loan fee. So Levy discount, which they'll be pleased about, but there's only ever going to be so much in the transfer budget, isn't it? Are we happy with that?
I think it's one of those where he doesn't fit the criteria that we were just talking about, that we want a ready-made player, which is fine. Like, again, he's somebody obviously that played this season. I thought he did all right. He didn't set the world on fire. He did all right. I'd put Odebear in the same category. They're young, they've got potential, and I'm quite glad that we did get a bit of a reduction in that price. So yeah, I think it makes sense by all accounts. Frank had been consulted to make sure he was happy with the sign-in. So yeah, for the price, I think it's a decent deal, and I think it's kind of a little bit of a sort of future planning for that left wing when Son finally calls it a day, whenever that might be.
Yeah, and you're gonna need a decent squad, aren't you? You're gonna, and part of me feels like Son might go, and if he does, I think that opens the door for us to make a big signing. They're talking Mbemo, they're talking Semenyo at Bournemouth. I think it opens the door and allows us to go and get someone of real quality if Son decides to go. There were times last year where I thought we did lack a bit of cover, and I think can play in the middle, but he isn't a proper centre forward. Odebear has played on the right as well, so it gives you sort of that cover over the both wings. So look, 19, that sort of price. They rate him in France. Him and Odebear are getting in the under 21 squad and putting in decent performances at the minute. So it feels like a bit of a no-brainer, especially when we first got him on loan. It felt like he's a £50 million player. That seemed to be the figure that was being knocking around.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
for him to come in, and we've got 10 million knocked off, I'd go as far as to say is I think he looks a better player than Odebear.
I quite liked him. He sort of played in the league team quite a bit when things weren't going well, but I quite liked his grit. He seemed to want to get involved and to do stuff. I have seen some comments that there's a bit of a worry about his personality or whatever, but I haven't seen that at all, really. What I've seen is a player that wanted to, be at a higher standard, and was getting frustrated a bit with us not playing as well as we could have done. I also think he does sort of really fit the Thomas Frank development template. He's
Yeah, for
very
sure.
Wissa and Buemo type, isn't he? That you can see him moving in the middle.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can definitely see him as somebody that, again, has got a lot of potential, and somebody that Thomas Frank can work with. And I think that's the thing about him, is that he is going to be somebody that can take a player and really sort of understand what is needed to put them onto the next level, because that's what he's done. That's what he does at Brentford, and we have a number of players like that, because we have a young squad. So I think that's a really exciting part of him coming in, is to see what he can do with some of our young players that have got that potential in them.
Yeah, if he's given the time.
And he does need some more experience around him. And what
Yeah,
that
he
looks
does.
like, we'll find out in the next sort of 2 or 3 weeks, won't we? But one
Yeah.
of the things he's going to have to deal with, guys, is obviously the dressing room as it stands at the moment. So there's been a lot of Instagram messages, Twitter messages from the players to Ange. Most of them as supportive as you would expect, but there's been a few interviews now, and there's been one post that I think is worth chatting about. So Son was interviewed in South Korea, and he seemed very non-committal to what happens next. And Tom, you've already said that you can see him going. Rumours about Fenerbahce, rumours about Saudi Arabia. I do feel with Son that it might be the end of a cycle, because he's obviously achieved what he wanted to achieve now as well. And I wonder whether he wants to go again under a new regime. Van der Ven came out and said he was very surprised that Ange was sacked, very vocally said that, which was obviously a little bit of a dig. And then, of course, Romero, the tweet in his drafts for 2 weeks. I'd love to have seen the original. It would have been absolutely fantastic, but he did temper it a little bit. but apparently the problems will always exist that we had last season. So I'm assuming that's not him being injured all the time, but he means that we don't have a deep enough squad to deal with the fronts that he wants to compete on. So what are you guys thinking around what the players have been saying? Are we bothered?
I've got the dagger of the quote from Romero in front of me,
Do it.
where he says, "Yeah, from day one you paved the way, despite the many obstacles that always existed and always will exist." Ouch.
That Levy-shaped dagger.
I mean,
And remember, he posted this 1 hour, I think it was, after Thomas Frank was announced.
yeah, it's an interesting one.
We all think footballers might be one brain cell short of intelligence, but that seems pretty timed to me to make sure that it's
Yeah,
done.
I think, and he's part of the leadership group, isn't he? So is he speaking for Mads and Son there as well? Yeah, no, I think they are annoyed. And look, this goes back to the point as well, but did Ange know it was coming not because of the league form, although probably because of the league form must have played a factor, but also because he'd gone to Levy and said, I need ready-made players now. You know, we can't keep going like this. And was that known? How close was this dressing room so that Romero could come out and then say something like that?
I do think, though, at the end of the day, they have said what they've said, but I do find it difficult to believe that Thomas Frank is going to walk into a situation where the players are sort of going to be making life difficult for him. I can't see that happen. I just can't see it. You know, they are all top professionals, and it happens all the time. Managers come and go all the time. It's nice for Ange to hear the support and all the nice things that his players have said. And it kind of happens, doesn't it? You develop that sort of siege mentality at times when you're going through the
Yeah.
season that we've just had. I think it's actually easier to bring a group together when you're going through something like that. And of course, to end the season like we did, you know, it was a perfect situation for him. So you can understand why there was such a tight bond and a strength of affection for him. But equally, yeah, I don't see it being a major issue for the new manager when he walks through the door.
I agree with all of that. I think what makes this easier is it's Thomas Frank. I think we said on the last episode that people outside looking in football like Thomas Frank. He's a likable character. He seems to be one of the good guys, and it would have been really interesting and probably less enjoyable if we'd hired somebody, I don't know, a little bit more spiky.
He seems to have the respect in the industry, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
And in the media as well. I think that's an important thing. I think Ange definitely rubbed people up the wrong way at times. And the trouble is that the media is so important now because that is what us, general public, is looking at. We get all of our information through the media, and the media have that power to sort of portray people and find angles on stories. And let's face it, most people are not going to go digging too far beneath the surface on a story. They're just going to see it at face value. So the
Yeah.
media definitely have the ability to paint whatever sort of narrative they choose to.
And that was part of the Ange problem, wasn't it? The media, or most of the media, saw him as, well, it was said, a clown, didn't it?
Yeah.
That he was ridiculed for sticking to that principle, that Chelsea game. I don't think they ever got over the fact that he played a high line with 9 men. You know, no
I
matter
know I
what
didn't.
he did. I mean, yeah. So I think from my point of view, you know, Romero's hilarious, isn't it? Because that's the second time he's dug out the board. There's always rumours that he wants to move to Spain. The fact is that he can walk in with a load of winners' medals.
Yeah.
And he's the one guy in our team that he's a proper win at all costs kind of guy when he wants to. So
Yeah. And he showed it in that final.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It was just immense in that final. So it's difficult to just say, well, no, you know, he just needs to go, because actually we're probably going to be better off with him. And I don't think we can disagree with what I think he's trying to say either, that the club needs more investment in the team for ready-made players of that standard. The other thing that was on the agenda was something that Spurs isn't really involved in, this Club World Cup. So
Yes.
obviously it's kicked off.
Not obviously at all.
I have no idea. I have no idea really what the results are, apart from the fact Bayern Munich won 10-0, didn't they?
Without Kane scoring, which is weird.
I saw the result come through, and I just assumed it was one of those stupid post-season friendlies on the other side of the world that you go to. I assumed they were in Australia playing against some village team to go and sell some more shirts. And then I suddenly realised it was in the Club World Cup, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was just ridiculous.
I did a bit of a survey today on Blue Sky. It was just put it out there. Is anybody bothered about the Club World Cup on this Positive Spurs page? Because just to see what the consensus was, and I got quite a lot back actually. The consensus was that nobody cares. Absolutely nobody cares. People would rather watch the women's Euros is much of a bigger thing for a lot of people, and the under 21s tournament as well. And even watching, the under 19s much more exciting because of Mikey Moore and and seeing that develop. I just wonder whether is it because we're European football fans, and I'm not saying that's everybody's opinion, but the three of us here, European football fans, we're spoiled a little bit that we get to see Champions League and all that kind of thing, whereas Auckland and that side of the world gets a bit more exposure. Not, I'd have to say, the exposure probably that they want after getting spanked 10-0. It's a development of the Club World Cup. It's been around for quite a while, but is it just football eating itself?
It feels like it.
It's just money and greed, isn't it? I mean, from what I understand, and again, I'm not bothered at all by it, so I've not really taken much time to find out about it. But from what I understand, it's kind of all being bankrolled by the Saudis, just like everything else. They didn't even have a TV deal for it until very recently. I think DAZN picked it up, and who are DAZN owned by? Saudis. So,
well, they don't. That isn't that part of the PIF,
yes,
which is effectively
Castle.
also owns Newcastle.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And they still didn't get in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, let's have a watch next time, because you see they want to expand it because to get more European teams in it.
This year, this was the first time I'd even realised this thing existed. It must have passed me by. So, how long has it been going on? Is it every 4 years?
So do you remember the first one was 2000, because Manchester United were in it after they'd won the treble, and there was this massive stink because they were forced to withdraw from the FA Cup.
FA Cup, yeah.
So it's been going a long time, but it's generally only been like 7 or 8 teams in it, which.
That's a really good point, because that's when the FA Cup started to sort of fall off in the priority list, isn't it?
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
yeah. Wow,
it was all their fault. Maybe in the next episode of the Club World Cup, we will be more interested because of the impact that Thomas Frank has had. He will be leading us there with his coiffured hair into wherever the next one is going to be, and we'll be changing our tune and be all over it.
Absolutely. People will be playing this back to us going, well, you didn't like it 4 years ago. Yeah, so we'll see. I think that's all we've got for this evening. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, boys.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, cheers. It's been a good one.
Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. Please follow us. Please click like and subscribe, and let us know what you think.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, Mum.